Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and today we're going to be talking about Zetas. We're going to be getting into which Zetas you can potentially skip, which ones maybe, hey, you need these ones, you don't need these ones, and I'm going to pick out some characters that you often use, some teams you're going to be building right now, and I try to, pick the teams that I think a lot of my player base is in the throes of that isn't obvious, right? Like, I'm not going to pick a Galactic Legend team and tell you where to short Zetas on. That's not what we're doing here. We're trying to pick out some of these characters or teams that, as you're getting closer to thinking about them, we can maybe hold off on some Zetas. So let's get in here. Let's give a shout to our channel members. I do need to update this graphic. It's been a little bit, so I appreciate you guys, your patience during this time. I really appreciate all of you. Whether you are on the council or you've been granted the rank of master or wampa, you are so appreciated, and I can't thank you guys enough for keeping me going through this game. It's you guys are awesome, and I really appreciate it. I can't say that enough. So let's get in here. Let's talk about some Zetas we can skip. All right, folks. So we're gonna start off with the Starkiller team. So you want both of Emperor Palpatine's Zetas. You need both of these Zetas. You need that turn meter, and honestly, the 50% max protection and gaining max protection until the end, that's really important. And let me kind of explain what this gaining max protection means. So, when you gain max protection, this doesn't mean that he heals, right? It means that if I'm at 90% protection and I start with 100,000 protection, right? I have 90%. That means my protection is 90,000. So if I increase my protection by 5%, my max protection is now 105,000 protection. And I'm going to be at 90% of that. So while you're not healing, you are increasing that pool. So if I stay at 90% for the rest of battle, but I keep ramping my, protection, right, until the end, I could maybe get up to 90% of 200,000 protection. So I haven't healed, but my max, my protection, what I'm comparing to is higher. So that is the one way that, with Palpatine, this Zeta does really play a role. Getting extra max protection is nice, but being able to gain it by inflicting shock is super important. Mara Jade, this is the first one where we can skip. You absolutely want the Zeta on Infiltrate and Disrupt. This is such an important Zeta. Giving Palpatine extra turn meter for each debuff inflicted is huge. It helps get your Starkiller team up and running. But the one on Ultimate Predator, dealing, Mara Jade, this ability deals double damage to shocked enemies and Jedi. You don't need that. It's not that important. She's not there to deal damage. She's there to facilitate. She is there. She has the attacker tag, but she's there to facilitate. She's there to get debuffs out on the field, get Palpatine assisting, so that way Starkiller can come in and use his basic, right? So we want to make sure that when you're, using that team, we want Starkiller to be assisting. Mara Jade does not need to be dealing damage. Does this help? 100%. But not nearly as much as Starkiller Zeta's help, and not nearly as much as Palpatine Zeta's help. Those are the most important ones. Old Ben. Now, he has two Zetas. He is Devoted Protector here, and there's one for If You Strike Me Down. I think the one on Devoted Protector is extremely important. When this taunt expires, Old Ben gains taunt for 1 turn. That is a really important Zeta. Increasing the taunt duration is huge, particularly when you're going up against a team like Rey, where in certain comps there isn't a way for them to dispel this taunt, right? Or once you get it back, they can't dispel it again. It sticking around means that that's more times Ben can eat your sudden whirlwinds and somebody else can't. If You Strike Me Down, this is a great ability. You're going to, whenever Ben is defeated, right, you're going to gain health and protection, and then he gains turn meter whenever a Jedi or Rebel takes damage. So you're getting a little bit of extra turn meter gain for times when you use Ben outside of this team. But then the first time he's defeated, all allies gain your offense up, speed up, and then you're going to gain 50% health, 50% protection, and 25% turn meter. Those are all really nice things. Do not get me wrong. Those are all great. I just don't think it's as important. Normally, if you lose Ben, you're kind of in trouble already. And to be honest, a lot of times I'd say that Ben's taunt gets dispelled and then Palpatine gets nuked out, and then your Starkiller run is over. So that's, there. Starkiller, we need his. Mara Jade is the Visas Marr is the last one here. This Zeta is just a waste. There's no, when are you ever using Visas Marr against Sith? It's like a 60% chance, and while she has no debuffs, like it's a mess, right? It's a mess. So yeah, skip that Zeta. The next one, sticking of teams that beat Rey, we've got the Cere Junda team. Now, in the open slot here is kind of your tank or, whatever character you're going to use. But this is kind of the core couple units of that team. Now, I would say this. For Grand Arena, determined assault is not necessary, because most of the time when I'm using this, I've already won. However, you do need this for the Jedi Knight Cal Kestis mission, so you have to equip it anyway. Right, she needs her Zetas. Same thing with Malicos. He needs all of his. He needs it. I'm sorry to say it. He needs his Zetas. They're really important. You just got to live with it. However, Cal does not need either of his Zetas. The not so fast, it's nice. It's not super important, right? I would not say that this is like a must-have Zeta. I'm Persistent is definitely a more important Zeta, but it's not on the level of like, oh my gosh, if you don't have this, you're screwed. Does it absolutely help your team? Yes. But I would say that you don't necessarily need it to get the Cere team up and running. And then Fulcrum's Whirlwind. Obviously, with her Datacron right now, this ability is getting a lot of attention. She's really, really good. Again, inside of the Malicos team, she is not, she's there to deal damage, but she's not the main attraction. Malicos is the main attraction. This is a Zeta that you could potentially skip in order to make sure that your Malicos is topped off. And she's a very good character. That Zeta does come in handy. It's absolutely important later on. But for a lot of you, you're probably at the point where Malicos needs to be the sole focus of your Zeta attention. Next, all of these characters we can skip the leads on. For Kylo Ren Unmasked, the Zeta here was important to not drop tickets during the Kylo event. That's no longer a thing, so it doesn't friggin' matter. Padme, we rarely use her in the lead. Yes, she can be very good in the lead, but she's not the most important. She's not the key core function of this team, right? She's oftentimes kind of relegated. Her characters get taken from her. It's just, yeah, it is what it is. Next is Shaak Ti. Again, another example of just like her clone trooper team kind of got ripped away from her. I think there's better ways to, spend that Zeta. It absolutely can be beneficial at times, but I think with the addition of Captain Rex into the game, you kind of have a better purpose for some of your clones in 3v3, and then in 5v5, you're throwing them with General Skywalker anyway. This one pains me, but I think Darth Vader's Zeta on his lead is one that I think we need to skip now. I used to say that this is a very important Zeta. I still love it, but I think as the game is going on, there's less and less use for it. Especially now with the Lightspeed bundles, the Vader solos are probably getting less and less common, and that's where that lead was like the best for it. A lot of you are going to end up using this guy with Dr. Aphra. You're going to use him with Lord Vader. You're going to use him with some other team, and I think you're not going to use him in the lead as much. And that's very similar with Grand Admiral Thrawn. At one point in time, this was one of the best leads in the game. It's just lost a lot of value. There's still some cool things you can do with Thrawn lead at times. You guys will see Arnold do that, but it's fewer and further between. I think that's a leadership Zeta that we can kind of skip out on and utilize somewhere else. Then we have this group of characters who have unique Zetas that we can just skip. So let's start with Echo. Yes, when an enemy evades an attack from a Clone Trooper 501st, Echo deals damage equal to 20% of their max health. It's great, right? It's a great Zeta. I don't know how often this is making the difference between me winning and losing fights. I just don't think it's doing that enough. Similarly, Arc Arsenal with Arc Trooper, the blast turret will assist when Arc Trooper attacks out of turn. The 501st under General Skywalker doesn't have a lot of out-of-turn attacks. So it's very rare that Arc Troopers assisting, And he only has 35% counter chance, so there's not a lot of opportunity for him to attack out of turn. Shock T had a lot of attacks out of turn where Arc Trooper's turret was more beneficial, where this really did play a role. But in the 501st team, it's just not there. I don't think it's worth equipping the Zeta. Dark Trooper bombarding reinforcements. This has absolutely saved my ass a few times. But most of the time, if your Dark Trooper's losing stacks, the fight's already over, and getting extra ones is not going to save you. I just think there's better ways to spend your Zetas. You're better off investing better mods in your team or on Dark Trooper than you are trying to make sure that he keeps these stacks. Like, once he starts losing stacks, normally other characters on the enemy team have already done some other damage to your team that you should be worrying about. The goal with your Imperial Trooper team is that the enemy team should never deal damage to them, right? That is your goal. And then Jedi Knight Anakin, Righteous Fury. If Padme is an ally, she takes a bonus turn after Anakin's bonus turns. When the hell are you ever using Anakin and Padme together? Somebody please tell me when the hell that's happening anymore. It's never happening, so don't worry about it. You don't need it. You don't need that Zeta. It's not serving a purpose anymore. It makes his ship better, but it's not helping him. And then BB-8, both his roll with the punches and self-preservation. At one point in time, those were very important Zetas. I think nowadays we can all sit back and say, yeah, we don't need them. They're good. He's not really a character that has stood the test of time. I think he's just kind of in one of those weird areas where there's not really a good team for him right now. And it sucks because he's a fun little character to use, but yeah, I would skip all those unique Zetas. Continuing on with teams, we have the CLS team. I would skip every single Zeta on C-3PO. First one is on Oh My Goodness. You're going to inflict Confuse twice. Yes, it's great, right? Confuse is a fun little thing. But it's not... Is it good? Yes. He's not really there to do that ability. There's a lot of other things we can do with this team that I think are more beneficial than that, especially if you're short on Zetas. And the other one is on Wait For Me, where he starts with a stack of translation. Again, it's nice. He gains extra max health from it. I just don't know that you're like, the next stack that he gains is critical chance. What does he need to start? Once he uses one ability, okay, he has max health, but he doesn't ever need critical chance. So, yeah, I don't think it's really that helpful in the team. And then the next one here is on Chewbacca, and that's Raging Wookiee. He's immune to ability block and cooldown increase. It's tough because those are both really nice things, but most of the teams we use him against, they don't have cooldown increase. They don't have ability block. I'd say like the one team that I'm looking at here is like the General Skywalker team can increase his cooldowns. But to be fair, you normally knock him down before that's a problem. And then by the time he gets back up, you've killed the entire enemy team. I just don't think there's enough there. And honestly, in the CLS team, you've got to think that C-3PO is out there inflicting, where is it? Whenever, where is it? Hold on. Come on. Where's the rebel one? Come on. I'm not a moron. Where is it? Where is it? Whenever a rebel or Ewok uses a basic, they inflict expose. There it is. I'm an idiot. So, yes, like, it's nice that, he can't get his cooldowns increased by General Skywalker. You're going to want to use basics anyway because that's where the exposed damage is coming from. So, I kind of like, it's nice, but you're using basics anyway. So, the special can be helpful, but it's not, I'd say that's one that I would probably skip, to be honest. And then finally, we have this Imperial Remnant team down here. Whoops. I'm a moron. We have the Imperial Remnants. Dark Trooper Moff Gideon, OG Moff Gideon. OG Moff Gideon, we can skip the lead. You don't need this leadership, right? You're not going to use him in the lead anyway. But next is the Scout Trooper, Death Trooper, and Stormtrooper. And we can skip all of their unique abilities. For Scout Trooper, it's giving out stacks of Emperor's Trap. Until the start of the next enemy. non-Imperial Trooper, allies turn, or the end of battle. Well, the problem here is that Dark Trooper Moff Gideon isn't an Imperial Trooper, so even he taking turns breaks up the Emperor's trap, so it just doesn't really help. This doesn't really help the team as much as you would think, right? You can't just build stacks and stacks and stacks of Emperor's Trap. Death Trooper, this entire thing is baked into Director Krennic, and like you never use Death Trooper with Director Krennic, so it's a skip. And then Stormtrooper. Now, I like this. Stormtrooper gains 40% offense for each defeated Empire enemy. At the start of Stormtrooper's turn, Imperial Remnant allies gain protection up for 1 turn. I like all of that. It's just not something that I'd say you absolutely need, especially because he's rarely ever taking turns, right? He's slow as hell. So, Stormtrooper isn't giving out protection up all that much. And then, having extra offense is absolutely nice, but, 40% offense on him, he's not going to end up hitting for all that much. You'd be surprised. Like, the problem is, like, this thing even says it has a high damage variance. So, like, yeah, it's just, if you leave Stormtrooper to the end, it's not like territory battles where it's going to start sniping you out. It's not good. I feel like if there was a counterattack mechanic here or something, or like an Iden Versio team, this is really good. But inside of a Imperial Remnant team, it's just not that valuable. So, those are some Zetas that you guys can skip right now. I hope that covers some of the characters that many of you are working on. And if there's others you have questions on, let me know. Like, subscribe, comment. I love you all. May the Force be with you. And I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, my friends.